Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 73 of the Unstoppable Entertainment Show, the most comprehensive entertainment news show on the internet. I am, of course, Nate Schaffner, otherwise known as the Unstoppable Nate. How are you all doing? I hope you're doing well. I hope that you've I hope you enjoyed today's show. I got a lot of interesting things to talk about. I know it's a crazy world out there, so I hope that this show provides a brief break from whatever it is that you're going through. Um, you know, I just want to before I get started, I just want to remind everybody that if you uh, like this show, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, spread the word. Also, if you have a comment, a question, or if you'd like me to talk about certain movies or franchises, you can email me anytime at the address listed in the description of this video. So, with that out of the way, let's uh, get started with this. So, you might recall from a few episodes ago, I talked about there's this movie coming starring Russell Crowe called The Last Druid. Um, and uh, it's going to be about this. It's going to be a movie about this. It's going to tell the story of a Roman emperor who discovers a secluded druid stronghold in the mountains of Caledonia. And Russell Crowe is going to play this Celtic elder who has to take up arms to protect his family and people from annihilation. And it sounds really interesting, and I love Russell Crowe. I mean, he's he's I think he's fantastic. So there's been some casting news regarding um, this this movie, The Last Druid. This article is on Deadline, published by Andreas Weissman. Um, This article says pro wrestler Drew McIntyre is adding to his movie resume with Russell Crowe action pick The Last Druid, which has also added Stacy Clausen, star of Sundance breakout Leviticus, veteran Spanish actor Pablo Durkee from Julia's Eyes, and Russell Crowe's son, Tennyson Crowe, in his second acting role. Um, and this article does point out that filming is underway in Spain uh, right now. So as of June 15th, filming has been underway in Spain. Um, William Eubank, who directed Paranormal Activity, Next of Kin, I believe, um, which I heard is quite terrible, um, is directing from a script um, which he co-wrote, which that kind of I'm dubious about, Um, so, but the story sounds interesting. I have to say, Drew McIntyre being in this movie, I, um, if you want to give me just a second. So, I actually, I grew up watching pro wrestling, and you know, I'm a big fan of wrestlers uh, be, becoming multifaceted and turning to acting. The Rock is the best example. I mean, the doors that he opened for so many athletes to to do that. Dave Bautista is another great example. You know, being Drax the Destroyer in Guardians of the Galaxy, and then being in Blade Runner, and you know that M. Night Shyamalan movie that he was in, Knock at the Cabin. You know, and Drew McIntyre is also going to be in the Highlander remake, which I'm very excited about. So Drew McIntyre being in a movie with somebody like Russell Crowe, I think is great. You know, and I've heard this Stacey Clausen, who is in this Leviticus movie. I've heard great things about Leviticus. Um, so I will say that I'm not too familiar with. I'm not familiar with Pablo Durkee, this Spanish actor who was in Julia's Eyes. I will say it's kind of cool to have Russell Crowe's son, you know, in you know Tennyson in this movie. I hope that my hope is that Tennyson Crowe being Russell Crowe's son. My hope is that if Tennyson Crowe continues down this path, my hope is that he carves out a name for he forges his own path, and you know he doesn't necessarily. My hope is that he doesn't use the um, the clout that his father has to help him along the way. You know, I would love to see Tennyson Crowe forge his own path in film. Um, you know, this sounds interesting. You know, this sounds great. My only cause for concern is, you know, this movie is being directed by William Eubank, who directed Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin, which I heard is quite terrible. So that's my only concern. But the story sounds good. I really like the cast. Love Russell Crowe. He's one of my favorite actors. You know, and so we'll see what happens. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on the cast announcements for The Last Druid. Okay, so this next bit of news is could also be cause for concern, but maybe not. So one of the movies that I'm really looking forward to, and that I really hope is good, is The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Gollum movie, which is being directed by Andy Serkis, who has, as far as directing, he is directing this movie. He has, he has a hit and miss filmography as far as being a director is concerned. And I know that there was this animated or anime film called The War for the Rohirrim, which came out last Christmas, I think. So the Lord of the Rings name still carries some weight, but I think there are various. Not that I am one of these fans, but I think there are numerous fans, Lord of the Rings fans out there, that are already worried about this film because of the recasting of Aragorn. I am not one of them, just for the record, but I can understand where people are coming from in terms of the recasting. I can understand it. And my concern is Andy Serkis directing this film, because he's had a hit and miss career as far as I'm concerned. as a director. Venom Let There Be Carnage was fun, but it wasn't like Venom Let There Be Carnage. If it, it was Lord of the Rings. It's its own thing. You know, I think with the Venom movies, people wanted more of the same, and that's what we got with Venom Let There Be Carnage, and that's fine. But for Lord of the Rings, you've really got to, that's an entirely different beast, So that's my cause for concern. He also directed um, uh, what else did he do? There was one movie that he directed that I actually heard was quite good. Breathe. In 2017, he directed this movie called Breathe, which is pretty good. It's pretty good. He also directed um, this movie called Mowgli Legend of the Jungle, which is mediocre. It's kind of mediocre. And then, of course, he also recently directed this animated Animal Farm movie last year, which I heard was also quite terrible. So I'm kind of dubious about him directing. Now, I will say that given the amount of experience he has working in the world of The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit, that gives me hope. But as far as him strictly as a director, I'm not. I hope it's good. Now, there's been some casting news regarding this Hunt for Golem movie. That it's not the casting that concerns me. It's the character. So this article is on CBR, published by Jamie Levitt. This article says that Anya Taylor-Joy has officially joined the cast of The Lord of the Rings: The Hunt for Golem. The actress is playing Seren, a brand new Sindarin elf character who will debut in the next Lord of the Rings movie. Seren is described as a trusted and lethal agent of King Thranduil. Thranduil, this article does point out that Lee Pace, who played King Thranduil in the Hobbit trilogy, he will be returning in The Hunt for Golem. Now, let me get this out of the way first. I love Anya Taylor-Joy. She is one of my favorite actresses. I think she, as far as her career is concerned, and her future, I think Anya Taylor-Joy is one of is part of the future of the film industry as far as my opinion is concerned. I think she's a wonderful, incredible actress. Being in, I think the first movie I saw her in was Split with James McAvoy, and she was great in that. She was fantastic in this movie called The Menu with Ray Fiennes, this kind of dark comedy. And that movie is great. Obviously, she's great in The Witch. Um, you know, I haven't seen The Northman yet, but I want to because I really love Robert Eggers as a filmmaker. And then Furiosa. I mean, God, she was. I mean, she's a badass in that in Furiosa. I love Anya Taylor Joy. And of course, Queen's Gambit. I have no problem. I think Anya Taylor Joy is going to be fantastic in this movie. My concern is that the character she's playing is an original character created for this film. Now, uh, she's going to play a gray elf from the Woodland Realm. My concern is that because this is not a character from the books or from any of the Tolkien works. Now there have been cases of new characters created for the Hobbit and the Lord of the Rings films that have worked, in my opinion, at least. The character of Tauriel, who was played by Evangeline Lilly in the Hobbit trilogy. I thought that character worked. I did not think that character was detrimental to the storytelling. I thought that character added to the film. So this could be another case of that. Of this character of Saren, bringing I'm trying to think of the right word, but this could be another case like Tauriel, well, where it actually it's not detrimental to the film, and there's more character relationships and things like that. But on the other hand, and I'm only saying this because of Andy Serkis's career as a director. I fear that this new character. I dearly hope that this movie is good. My fear is that because Andy Serkis has a questionable career as a film director, and that this is an original character created specifically for the film, my fear is that it's going to drag the movie down. That this character will drag the movie down, and it's not going to be beneficial or to the story. I have no doubt that Anya Taylor-Joy as an actress is going to crush it. She's going to be amazing in this movie. That is not my concern. My concern is that and I can understand this. There are going to be Tolkien purists out there who are going to throw up their arms at the fact that there's going to be another original character specifically created for the film that's this character wasn't in the books. What are you doing? I can understand that. My fear is that I I really enjoyed the character of Tariel, played by Evangeline Lilly, and the character dynamic that she had with the other characters in the Hobbit trilogy. I personally loved it. I don't know that anybody else feels that way, but I personally loved it. This could be another case of that. But strictly when it comes to Andy Serkis as a film director, and telling a story, and Anya Taylor-Joy playing an original character created for this film, I have my concerns. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong. God, I hope this movie is good. But I am concerned about this movie. Again, I have no doubt that Anya Taylor-Joy is going to knock it out of the park. My concern is about the character. What is this character going to bring to the story? And will it be beneficial to the storytelling, or will it be detrimental? I don't know. So yeah, so that's I just wanted to say that. I I don't know. I just don't know. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. I hope this movie is good. I really, really do. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on Anya Taylor-Joy joining the hunt for Gollum. Okay, moving on here. So, last episode, I talked about this new movie coming from Oliver Stone called White Lies. It's going to star Josh Hartnett, Michael Douglas, Willem Dafoe, and it sounds great. It sounds great. And this is going to be the first, I did not know this. This is going to be the first feature film that Oliver Stone has directed. He directed this movie in 2016 called Snowden, which starred Joseph Gordon-Levitt. And this movie called White Lies is going to be Oliver Stone's first movie since Snowden. So there's been some casting news regarding this White Lies movie. This article is on Deadline, published by Anthony D'Alessandro. This article says, we've learned that Oliver Stone's new movie, White Lies, has cast actress and social entrepreneur Stephanie Suganami. This article, and then this article gives even more plot details and a synopsis of this movie. This article says, White Lies is told across 3 generations and follows Jack Freeman, played by Josh Hartnett, a child of divorce, now repeating his parents' mistakes in his own marriage and with his own children. Feeling trapped, he embarks on a lust-filled journey to escape, only to find himself more lost than before. When he meets a woman whose life is the opposite of his own, he begins an unexpected journey on the path of rediscovery. This sounds really interesting. This sounds very heartfelt, like it's going to tug at the heartstrings. Now, this article does point out that Stephanie Suganami will play the role of Chica, a woman who gets to know Jack and his son, Joe. I'm not familiar with Stephanie Suganami. But obviously, she, let's see here. It says here that she was on, let's see, she was on the FX Hulu series Dave and Ryan Murphy's network procedural Doctor Odyssey, which I have watched neither one of those, so I'm not familiar with her. But obviously, being in an Oliver Stone movie, you're going to get widespread attention, so that's great. Now, this article, this synopsis gives uh, even more description of the story of what you know this movie is going to be about. A child of divorce repeating your own mistakes, and then repeating his parents' mistakes, and then this journey on the path of rediscovery. That sounds very emotional and very like it's going to tug at the heartstrings. And on a personal note, as a you know our parents, my sister and I, our parents got divorced. I was about to start high school, and she's my sister's 3 years younger than me. So uh, so we're children of divorce, and uh, I can understand. In fact, I kind of went through the same thing as far as you know seeing uh what seeing my parents' marriage crumble, um and my our mom had just had enough, and she was done. And um you know it's always tough to for a family to go through that. It's tough for everybody. And I think I can kind of identify with this story here, because for a long time I was extremely hesitant about um pursuing. I was with this girl for about 10 years on and off before I met my wife, my now wife, Katie. Um, and but with this girl that I was in this relationship with, it was a constant on and off. Uh, Probably mostly because of me. Um, it was both of us really, but my seeing what my parents went through with the divorce, um in particular what it did to both of them. I think my mother came out on the stronger end, and I'm not placing blame or anything. That's just a fact. I think my father really, really suffered. And um so I was extremely hesitant about settling down and getting married, um, because of what I had seen my parents go through, and I didn't want that for myself. So I think the reason, this relationship that I was in for about a decade, I think part of the reason it was on and off was because of uh my hesitancy, my separation anxiety, my not separation anxiety, but like fear of abandonment, I guess. Like, it's just one of those things. You push people away before they get too close, or you push people away before they have a chance to leave you. You know, um, that kind of defense mechanism. and it's still a little difficult for me to open up after all these years. It's still incredible. It's still not nearly as difficult as it used to be. Um, but it and I do, my anxiety was part of that. Was part of that. What this relationship that I was in. My fear of abandonment and my anxiety because I didn't want to turn out like my parents. So and then of course I met my wife, and she when we were dating, I mean she helped me to be like, you're just because you're his son doesn't doesn't mean that's not a bad thing. That's not necessarily a bad thing. There are good things too, and um you know you're not going to just because you're 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 his kid, that doesn't mean everything's going to turn out exactly the same way. And my wife helped me realize that. And so I think on a personal level, at least for me, this movie is going to hit home. And it sounds great, and coming from a filmmaker like Oliver Stone, I think it's going to be really, really, certainly, um, emotional, certainly, a very heartfelt movie. Um, but I'm really looking forward to this. You know, Michael Douglas is going to be in this. Um, who I've Willem Dafoe, Ellen Barkin. This I think this movie is going to be really, really great. Um, so jump in the comment section and let me know, um, your thoughts on, uh, this casting news and more information about Oliver Stone's new movie, White Lies. Okay, let me. I want to look up something here before I continue. Let me see here. Okay, so for those who don't know, there's this, director by the name of John Lee Hancock. He directed this movie called The Blind Side, with which stars Sandra Bullock, which is a decent film overall. Um, and it got, it's one of those things where it's the overall the movie is decent, but the performances are incredible, and Sandra Bullock is incredible in that movie. And she won the Oscar, for that movie. And then John Lee Hancock also directed, this movie called Saving Mr. Banks, with Tom Hanks and Emma Thompson, which I loved. Saving Mr. Banks is is great. It's great. Tom Hanks plays Walt Disney, and it's about, and Emma Thompson plays, um, uh, I'm blanking on the. Emma Thompson plays, P.L. Travers, who is the author and creator of Mary Poppins. And it's about uh, Walt Disney attempting to obtain the film rights to the Mary Poppins novels and the tragic childhood of P.L. Travers. And it's a great film. It really is. Um, and uh, John Lee Hancock has this new legal drama coming at Netflix. This article is on Variety, published by Angelique Jackson. This article says John Lee Hancock's legal drama about the landmark legal trial against U.S. chemical company Monsanto just added more star power. Lakeith Stanfield, Julia McDermott, David Duchovny, Melanie Diaz, uh, Bilal Hasna, and Greg Kinnear have signed on to join previously announced stars Jonathan Bailey and Laura Dern. The yet-to-be titled film follows the true story of young, untried attorney Brent Wisner, played by Jonathan Bailey, who in 2019 took on a unseemingly insurmountable case against the giant U.S. chemical company Monsanto on behalf of Dwayne Lee Johnson, played by Lakeith Stanfield, who used the company's best-known product Roundup, a wildly financially successful weed and grass pesticide killer, as part of his job as a high school groundskeeper. The Johnson versus Monsanto case was the first Roundup cancer lawsuit to proceed to trial and ended with a verdict determining that Roundup causes non-Hodgkin lymphoma. The jury awarded Johnson $289 million for failing to warn consumers that exposure to Roundup weed killer causes cancer. The verdict set a precedent that paved the way for thousands of subsequent lawsuits and jury verdicts against Monsanto's parent company, Bayer. John Lee Hancock, who directed The Blind Side and Saving Mr. Banks, directs from a screenplay he wrote with Michael Wisner, Alexandra Duparc, and Ned Benson. And this is going to be at Netflix. I love movies like this. You know, legal dramas about trials against chemical companies that you don't think they're causing trouble, or you don't think they're causing trouble for the environment and to people, but they really are. I think of movies like Aaron Brockovich. Aaron Brockovich is great. There's this other movie, like it's similar to that. Yeah, it's called Dark Waters. Um, it's got Mark Ruffalo and Anne Hathaway, and it's directed by Todd Haynes, and it's another film like this. It's about Robert Bilott, or Bilott, who takes on the DuPont chemical giant after discovering that their chemical pollution is polluting a water supply. I love movies like this. I think this sounds great. I love Laura Dern. Laura Dern, obviously Jurassic Park. I mean, come on, she's great. Blue Velvet. She was in this movie called, I'm gonna blank on it and it's gonna bug me. Uh, it's gonna bug me. Hold on. I mean, obviously, she was in Marriage Story. Um, Little Women. Man, it's gonna. Hold on, just a second. Citizen Ruth, which was directed by Alexander Payne. Citizen Ruth. If you guys haven't seen Citizen Ruth, do yourself a favor and watch that. I love Laura Dern. She's amazing. Um, and Jonathan Bailey obviously coming off. I mean, he's a superstar. You know, uh, being in the Wicked movies and even the even though the Jurassic World movie that he was in. I mean, that he's great in the movie. You um, he's fantastic. Um, Lakeith Stanfield, I love. He's I've seen him. Excuse me. Play. He's. I think he's a chameleon kind of actor. Greg Kinnear being in this. Greg Kinnear is great. One of my favorite movies ever is As Good as It Gets. I love that movie so much, and he's fantastic um, in the movie, and in the scene in the car where his character is telling Helen Hunt and Jack Nicholson's character Melvin Udall, he's in the back seat of the car, and the scene in the car where he's telling them, you know, about what his character's father, the way he treated him, and he just and that scene in the car breaks me every time, you know, where his character basically tells a story about how his character's father treated him when he found out he was gay. Um, and it's a fantastic scene, and um, and Greg Kinnear is and he's a wonderful actor. Even in uh, he was in Stuck on You with Matt Damon. Um, and that movie is not so good, but he's fantastic. And I even remember him. Um, he did a guest starring role on Friends, which was great. He's in You've Got Mail. He was in Little Miss Sunshine, Invincible. Um, uh, he's great. He's great. I love Greg Kinnear. Um, David Duchovny, I also love. You know, like I'll like David Duchovny is someone like I'll see anything he's in because simply because of how much I love the X Files growing up, and I still love it. But like the X Files is so good, so because of that, like, oh, David Duchovny is in it, or simply because it's like I'll see anything he's in simply because of how much I love the X Files and how much I loved him in it. He's great. David Duchovny's great. Um, this 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 sounds fantastic. Um, and being directed by John Lee Hancock, it's going to be nothing. It's going to be good. I have no doubt it's going to be good. And I like movies like this. You know, again, movies that where they tell true stories about, you know, what these, you know, I love movies that tell true stories about big corporate entities doing evil things that you might not know they're doing, you know. And I love this movie. I love movies like this. This sounds great. Um, so, uh, yeah, jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on John Lee Hancock's legal drama. I don't think it has a title yet. Um, yeah. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this. So this next bit of news is very tragic to talk about. And I wasn't sure if I was going to, because like I'm not sure if anybody knew who this actress was, and if they don't, they should. I Look, I'm not saying I'm the fucking authority. Like, just because you don't know who, you know, I'm not the fucking film and television authority. Like, just because I've heard of them or I haven't heard any of them, that doesn't mean shit. But this next bit of news is tragic, and when I heard about it, it's devastating. Um, and if you don't know who this actress was, you should. On June 16th, um, and there was a American actress by the name of DeVay. I'm gonna mispronounce it. I think it's DeVay Chase. She died at the age of 35 on June 16th. Um, and um, it was a very I don't want to get too much into it about the circumstances of her death, but it's incredibly tragic. Now, for those who don't know who DeVay Chase DeVay Chase was um, she most notably she played Samantha Darko in the film Donnie Darko, which stars Jake Gyllenhaal and Drew Barrymore and Maggie Gyllenhaal and Patrick Swayze, and it's this science fiction psychological thriller, Donnie Darko, and I cannot emphasize enough how much I love Donnie Darko. That movie is fucking awesome. Okay, and DeVay Chase played Jake Gyllenhaal's um, younger sister, Samantha. Now, she reprised that role in the movie that shall not be named called S. Darko. I can't even bring myself to watch it because everything I love Donnie Darko so much. I've heard nothing but bad things about S. Darko, and I don't want to watch that movie. You know. Now, um, DeVay Chase also she in the in the English in the English dubbed version of Spirited Away. She voiced uh, Chihiro in the English dubbed version of Spirited Away. And other notable um, other notable roles for her, she voiced Lilo in the animated uh, Lilo and Stitch, which I love to death. My wife Katie uh, absolutely adores that film. Um, she lives and breathes that film. She falls asleep to the film. To say that uh, my wife Katie is a Lilo and Stitch fan would be the understatement of the century. Now, DeVay Chase also. So, if you've seen the American version of The Ring, so there was The Ring, starring Naomi Watts, directed by Gore Verbinski, is an American remake of the Japanese film Ring, which I have not seen, but I have seen the American remake. And DeVay Chase plays, I forget the character's name. Um, oh, yeah, she plays Samara Morgan in the American version of The Ring. You know, she plays the girl that crawls out of the television. And she's that scene is like everybody knows that scene. You know, I was telling Katie, I said, you know, these because there's that new scary movie, spoof movie that just came out. And I told my wife Katie, when the scary movie franchise spoofs something, you know you've made it. You know, if you've been spoofed in a scary movie, that, you know, and uh, the girl coming out of the TV, um, Samara Morgan coming out of the TV is one of the most popular, iconic scenes in film history, and the scary movie franchise spoofed it, and you know, and DeVay Chase played that girl. I mean, and that scene is I've seeing it in context is terrifying. It's absolutely terrifying. And again, you know, I don't want to get into the circumstances. I'm not going to get into the circumstances surrounding DeVay Chase's death. Um, she did experience a lot of um, just a lot of personal difficulties. It was but to go so young, um, you know, she was only 35, and to have such a notable career uh, already is you know, I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, if you don't, it's one of those circumstances where you might not know her name, and if you don't, you should. But if you don't know her name, you know her voice, and you've seen the movies that she's in. And it was. I read that she died, and I was like, oh God, you know, like I it's just incredibly tragic and incredibly sad, and she she will be missed, and um, you know, um, yeah, I don't know what else to say. As a fan of, I you know, Spirited Away is fantastic. It's fantastic. I fucking love Donnie Darko. Donnie Darko, um, That's a movie that to me I think would be like a desert island kind of movie for me. Like if I was stranded on a desert island, what's a movie that I want to have in my collection? Yeah. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I yeah. Anyway, so I just wanted to say a few words about um, the about DeVay Chase. Um, mm, 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 mm. I'm going to try to move on here and talk about something more pleasant. Um, you know, I talk a lot about how much I love the comic book genre, the comic book movie genre. Sorry, my knee is bothering me. Mm. Anyway, I talk a lot about how much I love the comic book movie genre, and just I grew up reading comic books. Um, and I love my Marvel and DC stuff. I actually just got in the mail uh, Superman uh, T-shirt that I ordered. Uh, it has the logo, the Superman logo from the 2025 film. Um, and but I love my Marvel and DC stuff. But I also enjoy the more independent stuff, and I love that when the more independent stuff is gets more public recognition. um, Now there is one here that is very interesting to me. This article is on Joe Blow, published by Cody Haman. Um, let's see. Fangoria Studios. This article says Fangoria Studios has announced that they're teaming up with Panic Studios for a film adaptation of Panic Entertainment's horror comic book series Black Diamond. And Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight and Bones director Ernest Dickerson has signed on to take the helm. Ernest Dickerson is going to direct. Now, um, for those who don't know, this article does go into, what is Black Diamond about? And this article says that the comic book series was described as a chilling Nordic thriller fusing Hitchcock's psychological tension with the folk horror of The Wicker Man. On a family ski trip, Owen and Victoria Welch's son is abducted. A mysterious cult gives them an unthinkable choice: find another child to sacrifice or lose their own. As time runs out and the authorities close in, the couple must confront how far they'll go to save their family. Awesome. Awesome. Um, this sounds fantastic. This sounds very dark. This sounds very, you know, first of all, fusing Hitchcock with the Wicker Man. Okay. If you guys, okay, if you guys haven't seen The Wicker Man, not the fucking, when did it come out? Not the one that came out in 2006 with Nicolas Cage. And I love me some Nicolas Cage, but nope, that movie is terrible. The Wicker Man from 1973. If you guys haven't seen The Wicker Man, it is so I'm going to do you all a favor. If you guys haven't seen The Wicker Man from 1973, it is directed by Robin Hardy. Do not look up anything about it. Do not watch the trailer. Do not look up anything about it. Just find a way to watch it and watch it. It's great. It's great. So combining that, look, Alfred Hitchcock is one of my favorite filmmakers ever. I think Alfred Hitchcock is one of the great filmmakers, film directors of our time. Combining that with The Wicker Man, plus this child to sacrifice, this is going to be this Nordic thriller movie, folk horror. This sounds really fucked up. And you know what? I am here for it. I am here for it. I almost wish that Robert Eggers. I almost wish that Robert Eggers was directing this, because this sounds like a movie he could do. Because I'll tell you what, Ernest Dickerson, he directed Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight. That movie is, and I say this as a massive fan of Tales from the Crypt. You know, I grew up with that TV series. Tales from the Crypt, Demon Knight is pretty, it's not terrible. It's somewhere between terrible and decent. Somewhere in between there. I wish somebody else was directing this. And I never say that. I never say things like that. I never say things like, you know, I wish Robert Eggers was directing this, or I wish someone else was directing this. I never say that. But this sounds so fucked up and so twisted and so demented. I want this to be good. I want this to be good. Now, this article does point out that Brendan Columbus, who created the comic, is writing the screenplay. So there's that. That's good news. That's great news. I hope it's awesome. I hope it's as demented and twisted as it sounds. And he has directed, Ernest Dickerson has directed plenty of TV, but, you know, we'll see. We'll see. I hope it's good. I hope it's good. This sounds so twisted, and I am all in for it. So jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on Ernest Dickerson directing a film adaptation of Black Diamond. Okay, staying in the horror genre. For those who don't, you know, I'm a huge fan of the Evil Dead franchise. I need to see the one that came out in 2013. I've heard that's really, really good. But, you know, and I tell the story all the time. You know, I thought the Evil Dead franchise, at least the first 3 films, were just straight up horror. And they're really not. I mean, the first one is, but Evil Dead 2 and Army of Darkness are more horror action comedy. They lean into more of that than just pure horror, which I wasn't expecting. But now that I know that, you know, I go back and watch those movies all the time. I love those movies. And I loved Evil Dead Rise. I fucking love that movie. And Evil Dead Burn. If you guys haven't seen any of the trailers for Evil Dead Burn, oh my god, like that just looks like, you know, I think part of the fun, at least for me, of the Evil Dead franchise is that they is how far they go with the horror. Like it's just pure, unfiltered, uncut. Evil Dead Burn. When in the trailers when she's saying cheers and she drinks that wax, and I'm just like, oh god, that's so awesome. I don't know what that says about me. Um, you know, I loved Evil Dead Rise. Evil Dead Burn looks great. Now, and again, the Evil Dead movies, I think at least part of the fun for me is that they push the boundaries. Like they really lean into it. Like, let's go as dark as we can go with the as far as horror is concerned. Now, for those who don't know, so there's Evil Dead Rise came out in 2023, and there's Evil Dead Burn coming. I think it's later this year. I could be wrong. Evil Dead Burn. Yeah. So it's coming in July. Happy birthday to me. Now, for those who don't know, there's also another Evil Dead movie that started filming earlier this year, called Evil Dead Wrath. And there's not much is known about it in terms of plot and story elements. So there's this article on MovieWeb published by Patrick Kavanaugh. There's not much to go on in terms of plot details for Evil Dead Wrath, except for where it takes place in the timeline of the franchise. So a little ways down here, again, this article is on MovieWeb, published by Patrick Kavanaugh. A little ways down here, the article says this: a new spin-off in the series, Evil Dead Wrath, entered production earlier this year, though many details about that project remain under wraps. However, producer Rob Tapert gave a presentation earlier this year at Michigan State University, where he revealed unexpected details about the spin-off. Over on YouTube, user Ziggy2019 was in attendance at the event, in which Tapert confirmed the timeline of Evil Dead Wrath. The filmmaker revealed, Evil Dead Wrath is yet another great departure. It predates everything, takes place in 1972. It will feel like a 1972 movie because the director and his DP, director of photography, want to imitate the film look and feel of something that's called Ektachrome 100, which is a film stock still available, but a film stock a lot of movies shot on back then. And so it's very warm, very tungsten. That one, unlike Burn, has a lot of coming-of-age sexual hijinks in it, which the Evil Dead universe is not really known for, but this one does, and it goes there. I think it's going to be the one since the first Evil Dead movie that may have the most difficulty with the MPAA. Awesome! I cannot tell you And I don't know what, again, there I am not okay in so many ways. When I hear about a movie um having difficulty with the Motion Picture Association, it I I that tickles me beyond belief. Like, I want to, like, in other words, they're going to have difficulty securing a rating for this movie. Like, is it going to be rated R? Is it NC-17? Like, it's the MPAA is not going to. when I, but when I hear about this kind of thing, I get I I can't describe it any other way. It just tickles me beyond belief. Um, this is so, but it predates everything. Okay, now my question is, okay, first of all, that's awesome. That's great, and not that this is a terribly big deal. Will it predate everything, but still connect back to the original film? Um, like, will there be, like, obviously, uh, I, I guess I'm wondering, and again, not that this is a terribly big deal, but will this one lead into the original film, or will it just be its own thing that exists prior to the events of the first film, or will it connect? I don't care either way. I just want an Evil Dead film that is going to have difficulty with the MPAA. Okay, I want to see this now. I mean, I did before, but now I want to see where like he says this Rob Tapert, the producer, he's like, it goes there. It's going to be the one since the first Evil Dead movie that may have the most difficulty with the MPAA. Can I see it? Can I see it now? Can I just Oh my god. This is what I'm talking about. This is the kind of thing I'm talking about. Like, when the Evil Dead franchise really really uh um it it I think I think when it comes to horror, I think one of the things that I love about the Evil Dead franchise is that, there are a lot of horror movies that came out in the 60s and the 70s, um, that really were, because of the kinds of films that were made in the 60s and the 70s. There are horror movies that came out during that time, like The Exorcist, like The Wicker Man, like um, Last House on the Left, that really um, kind of, they're known for going places that, that are so, they're, I'm trying to think of the best way to say it. They're known for pushing boundaries, and The Exorcist is, people vomited in the theater, and oh, this is terrible, and I kind of miss I really miss movies like that, horror movies like that. And the people under the stairs. The horror films in the 60s and the 70s really, really, they went there. And this sounds like that. And I love that. And this is again what the Evil Dead franchise I think is mostly known for, is especially they're known for going places that I think other people would be afraid to go. And I love this. But it's interesting that it takes place in the 70s and it's going to feel like a 70s horror film. Awesome. I love that so much. I am so looking forward to this movie. Hold on just a second. Yeah, I am so looking forward to this. Uh, I just can I see it now? I hope this is great. I hope it is financially successful. I hope this movie gives the MPAA all the trouble in the world. I say that with love. I really do. Anyway, so jump in the comments section and let me know your thoughts on Evil Dead Wrath and it taking place in the 70s. What do you guys think about that? Okay, moving on here. So one of my favorite actors for a few years now has been Daniel Kaluuya. Now, Daniel Kaluuya, he won the Oscar for, I believe, Judas and the Black Messiah. He was in, let me see here. He was in Get Out, which is one of those films like it's so many like I watched an interview where Tom Hanks was talking about Get Out and he was like it was so many things all at once and I was like yeah it was. He was in Daniel Kaluuya was in Nope. He was in Widows. He was in Sicario. He played he was in the first Black Panther movie. Daniel Kaluuya is great. And he is going to be reteaming with, or reteaming, whatever word you want to use, with the director of Judas and the Black Messiah for a new movie. This article is on Deadline, published by Anthony D'Alessandro. This article says Daniel Kaluuya is reteaming with his Judas and the Black Messiah director Shaka King for the new Amazon MGM Studios and Hyper Object Industries feature, The Parlay. One battle after another, Golden Globe winner and Oscar-nominated actress Teyana Taylor is circling to star. So that is she is in negotiations to be in the movie. This article goes on to say that The Parlay will be based on an original spec script by Zach Akers and Skip Bronke. And they are revising the script. While the plot is being kept secret at this time, we understand the project is being billed as an action crime thriller. Great. Awesome. I love action, like crime thrillers. I love those kinds of movies, and I think they need to. I think there needs to be more of them. Quite honestly, I think and I could be wrong here, but I feel like uh, crime thrillers are starting to go the way of the western. I That's how I feel, and I could be wrong in my instinct. I don't know. Um, Now, Judas and the Black Messiah is fantastic. It's fantastic. So Daniel Kaluuya reteaming or reuniting with Shaka King is going to be fantastic. And an action crime thriller called The Parlay. Now, anybody who knows what parlay means can probably infer what is going to happen at some point during this movie. Um, so I am down for this. A crime thriller from the director of Judas and the Black Messiah. I love that. I think it sounds great, and Daniel Kaluuya is awesome. It would be great to see Teyana Taylor in this movie too. I mean, she was fantastic in One Battle After Another. She was awesome. She was awesome. So jump in the comment section and let me know what you guys think about Daniel Kaluuya and Shaka King. I love that name, by the way. I love his name, Shaka King. Daniel Kaluuya reteaming with Shaka King for action crime thriller. Okay, so moving on here. This bit of news is interesting. So, this new Spider-Man Brand New Day that's coming in July. It looks awesome. It looks awesome. I was talking with a coworker about it, and it was interesting because like I am so excited for it. Like we were talking about Spider-Man Brand New Day and Avengers Doomsday. And I was like, I have nothing against like I'm not going to go like I'm excited for Spider-Man Brand New Day, but I'm not opening weekend excited about it. And he was like, "Why?" And I was like, "I have nothing against its crowds. Like I have incredible social anxiety. And I told him, I said, I have nothing against geeks. I am one of them. I fucking ugly cried during Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm a geek myself. It's just crowds. Like I can't. And he was like, I get that. But Spider-Man Brand New Day looks awesome. There's even a final trailer that's come out. It looks great. Now, it has been, and I talked about this a while back on one of the shows, but it was a while back. It was announced that Tremel Tillman was cast in the movie, but at the time he was cast, it was not revealed who he will be playing. Now, and there's all kinds of weird stuff in the movie, at least from the trailers. It looks like there's all kinds of like this invisible villain that can't be seen going on, which is going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But but at the time of Tremel Tillman's casting, it wasn't known who he was going to be playing. there have been theories, but uh, it has been confirmed in the new trailer, the newest trailer. So there's this article on Screen Rant published by Kevin Erdman, and uh, the headline basically the article confirms or reveals who Tremel Tillman will be playing. And I'm just going to start reading this article here a little ways down because it's very interesting. A little ways down here, this article says, following Avengers Secret Wars, Marvel Studios is expected to introduce the X-Men as native heroes of Earth 616, with Thunderbolts director Jake Schreier already developing an X-Men project. Keeping that in mind, planting the seeds for Mutant Kind's full debut ahead of time makes sense, including the public's traditional fear and hatred toward mutants from the original Marvel comics. And this article goes on to say, there's a headline that reads, I'm just going to read this article. The newest trailer for Spider-Man Brand New Day confirms that Tremel Tillman is playing William Bill Metzger. In the MCU, Metzger looks to be the director of the Department of Damage Control, the organization tasked with cleaning up after, containing, and monitoring enhanced individuals, and made its first on-screen debut in Spider-Man Homecoming. In the new trailer, Metzger is seemingly recruiting Spider-Man to help the Department of Damage Control, the DODC, take down a dangerous mind controller, describing them as an enemy they can't see and can't control. Bill also says Spider-Man appears to be the only one immune, possibly thanks to his spider sense. While Metzger may appear to be another government official trying to keep the public safe, readers of the original comics know better. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In the comics, on the page, William Metzger was the leader of the anti-mutant militia, publicly stoking fear and hatred of mutants before he was ultimately killed by Magneto. As such, it'd be pretty strange if Marvel Studios were to use the name William Metzger and not have some sort of connection to the comics version, especially with mutants being so imminent on the horizon for the MCU. So this article goes on. The MCU's DODC already has a rough reputation thanks to its increasingly aggressive tactics toward enhanced individuals, as was seen in Ms. Marvel's Disney Plus series, a confirmed early MCU mutant. As such, introducing a live-action version of Metzger running an organization like the DODC could be the start of some major institutional distrust toward mutants ahead of the X-Men's official debut. Seeing as how the Metzger of the comics had connections to Bolivar Trask and the mutant-killing robot Sentinel program, there's some pretty dark potential for how the MCU might start using the DODC against mutants in the near future. And it goes on. So this is interesting. This is very interesting. They're already laying the groundwork, it seems, for the mutant saga part of the MCU. And, I wonder how it'll be interesting to see how Spider-Man plays into all of this. But for this is a pretty deep cut for comic book geeks. This is a pretty yeah. This is it'll be interesting to see because I'm wondering myself what the whole mind control. Because if you watch the Spider-Man Brand New Day trailers, it's like what is this mind control thing? Like what's going on? And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. What are um, Metzger's true intentions? Does Spider Man know his true intentions? If not, how will he feel when the true intentions are revealed? All that. This is going to get really, really interesting. There's also rumors that Jean Grey is going to be in this movie. That Sadie Sink is going to play Jean Grey. So this is very, very interesting, and it'll be really cool to see how this movie plays out and the groundwork that it lays for the next saga, the next phase of the MCU. But I just thought I would read that article, a bit of that article there, and see what you guys think. This is some really deep cutting kind of stuff for comic book geeks. So jump in the comments section and let me know what you guys think about all of that. Okay. One last bit of news here for today. So I talked a while back about there's this new movie coming from the filmmaking duo known as the Daniels. The Daniels co-directed Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is fucking awesome. And they've got this new event film. It's being described as an event film that was going to star Ryan Gosling. And for reasons unknown and for reasons, for reasons unknown, Ryan Gosling left the project, which that's his business and nobody else's, it is what it is. Now, it has been revealed, or it has been reported, that so Ryan Gosling stepped away. He left the project. Matt Damon will be taking his place. I love Matt Damon. I didn't always love Matt Damon. I think it was because of there was a time when he started playing the same kinds of roles. I've always liked him as an actor, but it started to become like, oh, you're playing this kind of guy again, and to me it started to become a little boring. But I've always thought he was talented. But then I saw him in Interstellar. And Matt Damon is great in Interstellar. It was that reveal that nobody saw coming. And if you think you saw it coming, you're wrong. Nobody knew that Matt Damon was going to be in that movie, in Interstellar. Then I saw him in Interstellar, and then I saw The Martian, which was directed by Ridley Scott. The Martian is great, and Matt Damon is fantastic in that movie. And there are movies that he's been in that aren't so good, but he's been good, like Elysium and The Great Wall. But obviously the Ocean's 11 movies, Good Will Hunting is one of my favorite movies of all time. I've always enjoyed watching him, and he has over time become one of my favorite actors. So Matt Damon is going to be replacing or taking the place of Ryan Gosling. Matt Damon is going to be replacing Ryan Gosling. And there's been more casting news regarding this movie, this event film from the Daniels. This article is on Variety, published by Brent Lang. Let me see here. Okay. This article says Charles Melton, the star of Beef and May December, will join Matt Damon in the new movie from Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert, the filmmaker duo known as the Daniels. The project, which is described as an event film, marks the pair's follow-up to Everything Everywhere All at Once. Plot details remain under wraps, but production is expected to begin in Los Angeles this summer. So this article goes on to say Melton first received attention for his performance in Riverdale. He also appeared in Warfare, which I have not seen, but I want to because of Alex Garland. I believe Alex Garland directed it, and I'm a huge fan of him, so I want to see Warfare. And I've heard the movie's great. Melton's turn in May-December earned him a Golden Globe nomination, and he is expected to be an Emmy contender for his work in Beef. I've heard of Beef. I haven't watched it yet. He also recently starred in Nicholas Winding Refn's Her Private Hell alongside Sophie Thatcher and Havana Rose Liu. The film earned a divisive reaction when it debuted at this year's Cannes Film Festival. Okay. So, yeah, I don't know too much about Charles Melton. I want to see Warfare, and I've heard of Beef. I've heard it's great. Because it's I'm really looking forward to seeing whatever the Daniels do next, whatever it is, because they co-directed Swiss Army Man, which is this kind of absurdist movie. It's really, really out there. It's not for everybody. But yeah. And Everything Everywhere All at Once was awesome. It's awesome. Matt Damon, and now Charles Melton. I can't wait to know more about this movie, but needless to say, I am stoked for it. I am stoked. Deliriously excited, I should say. Okay. So jump in the comment section and let me know, have you guys watched Beef? Do you know of Charles Melton's work? Jump in the comment section and let me know your thoughts on this. Well, that'll about do it for today, for this episode for today. I might be back. I'm not sure what I'm doing on Thursday. I am either going to go see Disclosure Day or going to do another show. I'm not going to do both. I don't know what I'm going to do, quite honestly. But I'm doing something on Thursday. I just don't know what. Um, so I hope you enjoyed the show today, and I hope that you continue to enjoy in the future. As always, if you like this show, go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. And if you have a comment, a question, or if you would like me to talk about certain movies or have a question regarding that, you can leave a comment in the comment section or email me. Um, so yeah, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. And I hope you all are doing well. Um, so yeah, so uh, yeah, so I'm gonna. That brings an end to this episode. So I hope you all have a good rest of your day. And as always, I will see you at the movies.